Hello and good evening, everyone. This is Gary A. Swaby, and you are now listening to or watching the Powercast. And we are back after a little break, since Force and everything. But now we're here to cover Raising Kanan, a show that is, well, do I want to start trouble yet? I don't know if I should start trouble, but let me just say that Raising Kanan is definitely one of the best power shows out there. I'll just say that. Um, but yeah, we're going to be recapping Power Book 3, Season 3, Episode 1. And the title of this episode is Home Sweet Home. And I'm joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And I am also joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you doing, Dana?
I am excited to talk about good scripts with good acting and good plot points of new characters.
Oh yeah, me too. Because there is a lot to talk about, and yeah, new characters. Oh yeah, we got to talk about that. Um, because yeah, that new character is very intense. So we definitely got to discuss that. But you know, um, just a little house cleaning before we get to the takeaways. So first of all, as always, we encourage you guys to get involved with the show. Leave your comments. Let us know your thoughts and theories. Let us know what you thought of this first episode of Raising Canaan. Um, I can't wait to see, how everyone embraces it. And I want to see if Raising Canaan coming back brings more viewership, to stars now, because I know a lot of people were actually waiting for this show to come back. So, I want to see what the viewership is like for stars and everything. But yeah, definitely chime in the comments. Let us know what you thought, and hit the like button too. That's very important. And also subscribe to the channel. We want to try doing a lot more bonus content this season, because we are heavily invested in Raising Canaan, but we can't do that without your continued support. So please do show your support. Hit the like button, subscribe, check out the other channels. The Koalition Entertainment and the Koalition Gaming also. So yeah, with that out the way, let's get to our takeaway segment. And I'll set it off since I am the host and this is the first episode. I'll set the pace here. So I'm gonna dive right in and give my three takeaways for this episode. So the first thing I want to kind of touch on here is with Laverne, she had like a career day meeting, in this episode where she was talking to like a career coach about what she's interested in, what her future could be, and stuff like that. So this got me thinking about where she actually ends up in the power history. Now we know that she's brought in season 3 of Power, the original, and she's introduced as Kanan's cousin, and this is after Kanan has a fight with Ghost, and he gets burnt up and stabbed and everything, and she has to help him nurse back to health. And she has a girlfriend staying at the house who helps him also. And yeah, we that's where we kind of see the development of her character in the original Power. And we all know that she is a police officer during this time, a crooked police officer at that, because she helps to set up a robbery. She covers up crimes for her friends and stuff. And yeah, she does a lot of like crooked stuff as a police officer. So with seeing this career meeting that Laverne has, aka Jukebox, that got me thinking, is this the season where we see that development of her transitioning, from who she is now to then becoming, interested in being a police officer? And how she gets to that point is going to be where, the interesting part of the story. Now, if we just look at this episode, we see what happens at the end. Something huge happens at the end, where, an officer gets killed that she was kind of close to. She had a rapport with Burke. Um, and also you have Howard, he's now kind of breaking bad and turning into this kind of crooked cop. So these are the people around her at the moment, associated to her. So I'm wondering if any of this kind of influences her decision making in the future. So, I just thought that was an interesting note that, she had that career meeting just because, we all know what she ends up doing. And she could do other things before then, before she becomes a police officer. She could maybe have other careers and jobs, but just knowing where she ends up, I just feel like it's interesting that we're seeing that career meeting now, especially with everything that's happening with the law enforcement in this episode. So that was just the observation, that I had and wanted to talk about. But let's get to the next one, which is Kanan. So Kanan was hilarious in this episode. Like he has this like very mean kind of distaste, like a savage distaste of his mother, where to the point where he's disrespecting her in conversations when they're talking, like when they're in a group, when the family is together, Marvin, Jukebox, Kanan, um, and Raquel, he's just straight up disrespecting her, like calling her a liar, like saying that anything she says is BS, and all that stuff. Like he is just not holding back at all. Like he makes it clear how he feels about his mother at the moment. And you could say it's warranted because after all, she killed his best friend. She kept his father from him, like the nature of his father, and then she had him kill well, try to kill his father. She had him shoot him and everything. So like she's really like manipulated him and played with his mind. So you can see where the hatred comes from. And even in season 2 is when he initially wanted to break away and move out. But now he's really standing on it. Like even when they go to the house, the new house and everything that she bought, and Marvin's moving in the boxes and he's trying to get Kanan to help out. And Kanan's like, I don't live here. Like I ain't living here, even though Raquel bought it with the intention that Kanan was gonna live there. They were gonna live there together. So just seeing that is like I feel like this is the season where we're really going to see Kanan come into, his character and start to become the Kanan that we know from original Power. He's being more bold. He's standing on his words and his principles, and that's the Kanan we know right there. So just I'm excited. It makes me excited for the rest of the season just to see this kind of Kanan, like just to see the energy of where he's at right now in episode 1. I can't wait to see what's next, what's coming next, because this energy is like real intense between him and Raquel, and we know that Raquel is kind of like she's crazy for him. Like she wants to control him. She wants to she feels ownership over him and his life and his decisions. So she's not just gonna fall back and let him do what he wants. Like I feel like she's gonna keep trying to control him and steer him back into the nest, and stuff like that. Even though she's saying that she's quitting, quitting the game and everything. She's not gonna quit being a mother, So I want to see how that dynamic is going to go, between Raquel and Kanan this season, because the energy in this episode was like it was crazy. It was real savage just seeing Kanan address his mother. But and then that also brings me to Kanan's father, Howard. So that Well, that was a great way to end a first episode, like a season premiere episode. Like that was an amazing way to end it right there. Like just because Howard, he started off in this series as like a legit kind of police officer. He did have a bit of a mean streak and everything, but like he he was mainly like a solid stand up kind of police officer, and he took Burke under his wing and everything, like trying to show her the ropes. So like just to see him like turn and kind of it's really like a Breaking Bad kind of story for him, where he's been consumed by this new role of being Kanan's father, and he feels the need to protect him. And I like how there's that moment where Howard and first he goes to Raquel, and he basically says like, we need to let Kanan know that we're in this together, and we gotta get our story straight and look out for each other, because he knows how hot it's getting from the police side of things, and the feds are getting involved. So he feels like he has to protect them in a way, because that is his baby mother and his son. So he gets them together. They go to Famous's apartment where Kanan is staying, and he's like telling them like, we've got to keep it close. We got to get our story straight, keep it close, don't make any mistakes. And then instantly they call him out and say, look, your partner's the one that knows everything. Buck, she knows everything about us, so she's really the biggest threat to us right now. And that kind of sets in motion that contradiction within himself. Like, yeah, like I'm telling them that they got to keep it close, but then there's dirt going on on my side of the fence. There's dirt in my house. So I like that kind of revelation that conflict within him, where he's like, okay, yeah, they're right, like I gotta fix this. And then we see him set up the meeting with Burke later on, and then the whole the whole conversation in the car was just chilling. Like he's trying to tell her, like he's trying to come at it like as the concerned friend, like I'm gonna help you get back on the force. We could fix things, and then she's just unloading on him, letting him know everything she knows, and then just bam, out of nowhere, just like that. Like um, it was just everything about it was perfect. Like even just like Omar Epps is a great actor. Um, the way he did that scene was just incredible. Like it was so savage, but like he had this demeanor about him where it's like I'm just taking care of business right now. Like this is what I have to do, and just his whole movements and his expressions and his inflections in that scene were just amazing. Like it was like he really sold that scene. Him taking the tape from her, like you were recording me and stuff like that, and wiping off the blood off his face, and looking in the mirror. Just everything about that scene was just cold and just perfect. Like and it was a great death scene for the first episode. I felt like it really kind of set the tone for me. So I thought that was great, and I can't wait to see what the consequences will be, because his commander seems to really trust him. Like he puts a lot of faith in Howard. So I want to see, like, is there going to be any fallback on this? Like, are they going to figure out what he did? Because obviously he tried to make it look like a suicide, but if somebody does some digging, they might be able to find out a thing or two, and then there's the girlfriend, and there's Burke's father. Are they gonna uh, follow this up and try and figure out what happened? So I want to see what the consequences are going to be for what Howard has done. But yeah, that's my takeaways for this episode. And I just want to say, this is how you start a season. This was a great first episode for me, and I just can't wait to see, what else is going to happen. There was also the Ronnie being introduced. We're going to talk about that. I do have a question related to that, and I'm sure one of you will bring it up in the takeaways as well. So can't wait to hear what you got to say about that. But yeah, those are my takeaways. And I'm gonna pass it over to Miss Dana Abercrombie next. So Dana, when you're ready, take it away.
So sorry, I couldn't get that unmute button. This was delicious. I loved everything about it. This I'm gonna start off with Ronnie because what I love about just in general is how you introduce new characters where it shifts the dynamic of the show without them completely stealing away the initial goal. And I think that was what helped the introduction of this character where he was literally just sitting in the house and you felt this character, you felt the shift change with Unique when he came into the home, where like he was not bouncy and happy, but he was much lighter than what he was when he realized it was his brother at the table. It wasn't, remember, it wasn't like this big warm embrace. And what's really interesting is how it was Ronnie that really led the conversation. And right away, you saw the dynamic between the two of either it was who you're either scared of or you respect. And I think that there's a bit, they share a bit of commonality with scared and respect. Right away we saw, what was it? Wrist. He had the remember, where did that come from? And what I loved about him was just how observant he was, how he's able to, if you really just walk into the house, he blends in. He's not, flashy like Unique. He looks in most ways like a nerd. He looks like one of those Nation of Islam men that you see in Malcolm X. He's a little, he's well groomed, but the glasses, looks like he reads a lot, looks like he likes to read. Um, and he looks like somebody who just did something with his life, but then you realize what he actually is and what he went to jail for. So I really loved how he's not who you think he is and how immediately you have that kind of fear within him and Unique and how he leads the conversation, but also this how observant he is. Not only when he looked at his wrists, but when he was in the car and you just glance by and you look at why are the corner boys doing this and this? And he's trying to explain to him, but you see him always constantly thinking. So I really loved the introduction. It wasn't big and splashy, but it was there, it was present, and it changed the dynamics of the character. And it also made me want to know more about this relationship, past, present, and future. So I really, really do love this. Another thing that I wanted to point out was, with Burke, I did not think this was going to be her end. I thought she was going to last at least until the end of this season. And what really threw me was the dad, Once daddy comes in, I'm going to have a conversation. I assumed Burke would kind of let him take the lead and not be so darn aggressive with things and so self-assured. You know when your parents have to come in and save you. So, and that she would be open to what he's saying and play the game because she can always get her goal, maybe not now, but later. If you acted more like Ronnie, you would have gotten what you wanted. So that didn't happen at all. But kind of going back with the whole suicide situation, this is a good thing that this takes place in the 90s because this was so sloppily done that I am 1000% sure he would have been caught the next day. But what was interesting was, it wasn't just that he killed her, but he found the tape recorder too, because that could have easily been like a lingering thing where like they discovered a tape recorder and then we're wondering who's gonna find it, will they play it? And then also on top of that, the captain, before he kind of suspended her, um, I kind of wondered if he was gonna not necessarily listen, but you know how people take in what you're saying, but they're not gonna react the way that you want to right now. So I kind of thought that was what was gonna happen with the suspension. Like she was going extra, and we understand why she was going extra, but at the same time, she was going way too extra, way too fast. So I kind of thought he would take into account what he's saying and maybe not visit it right now, but down the road. But the fact that she died right away and that he knew her. Remember, he kept saying, "I know you since he was little." The alcoholism with your mom. I understand the pressure that you are. Sorry. I am hoping that by knowing her and her character, he doesn't think that she would commit suicide because she's so gun ho about something that I hope that, he would think she would have the will to live. So we should kind of investigate this more. So that's what I'm really hoping on. Also, the dad, he has connection. This is a family job. This is a family career. He has connection. So I do hope that he is going to know like something's up. And we're going to see that kind of be investigated. And I do, in a way, want not Burke. I want Howard to kind of like, I understand where he's working from because he's like, I have to protect my family, my son. And he was like that from the very beginning. Even though he was just really thirsty about it, he was able to pull back some. But with this one, he's kind of still the same motive. But I wonder now if the father starts challenging things, what will Howard do? Because the one thing about her, so sorry, is that she ran her mouth. So it could be, well, you put pieces together, you could still say, Howard's in the wrong here. Another thing that I did like about this was jukebox. And I know that we're expecting for that big twist of what's going to happen and how she ended up where she's at. I'm okay with that not happening right now. I really love the fact that they tried to protect her when they told her what really happened with her mother. She was apologetic and she really loved you and this and and I really hope that for that moment it gave her a little bit of peace. But I really liked how they was like everyone was concerned about Jukebox and her well-being. I hope that this, if you look at how Rock is treating her and Kanan, it so sorry. It seems to me that I wonder in Rock's eyes, can Kanan still be saved? And if not, she's going to dedicate all her energy towards Jukebox. So that would be an even more interesting dynamic to see play out. So those are my three. I know we'll dive deeper into more stuff.
Oh yeah, excellent observations. I really like that your little title there is Officer Dumbass. Like that's hilarious.
I mean, basically, that's what she was.
She was very like bold, but like blindly bold. Like like she didn't think anything was gonna happen to her if she kept pushing the issue. Like
she was basically acting like Kanan, like a teenager with hurt feelings. Yeah. I'm gonna talk to you now, Mom. So yeah.
Yeah, she was going too hard. But yeah, so it is time now to hear from Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. So when you're ready, Rich, hit us with your takeaways.
First and foremost, excellent takeaways from Gary and Dana, as always. Let me start off by saying, yeah, this is an outstanding episode, an outstanding season premiere. And I know Gary did not want to create any controversy by talking about what's the best power show, but come on, guys. This is an easy, let's just admit this is at the top of the list. All right. So my three takeaways from this episode. I'm going to start off with Lulu because you see that my title on here is not Bulletproof Records, because Lulu is told in this episode, after what happened last season with Issa getting shot, all the stuff that happened, he is told that he has to evacuate the building because now this is a crime scene. So I'm going to try to help Lulu find another record label. But for right now, the record label is called Not Bulletproof Records. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, Lulu in this episode, he does tell Marvin that Raquel did confess to him that she made a mistake by killing Scrappy, basically trying to talk with his brother, try to get an understanding of where he's coming from, to give him a better understanding of where he's coming from. And I did find it interesting that also in this episode, later in the episode, he does meet up with Kanan, and he tells Kanan that Raquel is the one that had him kill D Wiz. Basically, because him and Kanan have this connection where they have a shared hatred and disgust for Raquel right now. So I want to see where they're going with that, because that was very interesting to see that dynamic. But of course, you know, and then of course, Lulu, this entire episode, he's drinking, does give Kanan a drink as well. So yeah, just bonding together because they don't like Raquel. So let's see what happens with that. On the second side of that, talking about Marvin in this episode, he is recovering at the start of the episode from the bullet that he took last season. Luckily, the bullet went straight through him, but still in a lot of pain, still recovering. He does get a box from the church that Jukebox Mom was at, Kenya. He gets that box. It basically has Jukebox, a whole bunch of items she had of Jukebox that reminded her of Jukebox, that I'm sure she was going to give her that box if they had their time to make up. But unfortunately, that did not happen. And he does basically decide to go to the service. Now, he does give Jukebox the opportunity. He says, hey, if you want to go to the service, I'll go with you. Jukebox decides to stay home, which makes sense, right? She's dealing with a lot of stuff because of what happened last season with her mom. And of course, she's trying to process all this other stuff. And as Dana pointed out, I'm glad they did take a moment to show the family's concern for her state of mind as she's going through this. But one thing I do want to say, and this is, I think, very important about this show. Like we always say, this is a great show. The acting is excellent. I have to say this though, the music selections for this show, this is top tier. They had that very beautiful Roberta Flack song, and you know, I listen to a lot of old school music, but I've never heard this song. The song is "Do What You Got to Do," right? Beautiful song montage as they show various characters going through different things. So I got to give them a shout out for that. That's the first one. So that's the first takeaway. The second takeaway of this episode, Dana touched on this as well. I like the introduction of Ronnie to the show as Unique's older brother. And like you said, you did feel the power shift the minute this character showed up. He didn't really have a ton to say, but when he said something, it was impactful. And I'm pretty sure that when he does something in this season, it's going to be very impactful. You just get that demeanor from him already. But I like how they introduced the character, and you see that there's already tension between him and Unique because he doesn't like that Unique is working with Raquel. He doesn't like any of that stuff that's happening. So I'll be very curious to see what happens as the show goes on from that perspective. But yes, this whole dynamic of Unique definitely feels as though he is a little uncomfortable. And then you saw at the end of this episode, Unique did hook up with Raquel. Obviously, you know, he also it kind of feels as though when Ronnie showed up at the beginning of the episode, it felt as though Unique felt a little uncomfortable. He didn't really feel as though this is someone he can approach. But I want to see how that dynamic continues as the season goes on, because obviously they are brothers. They're going to definitely butt heads, I feel, a lot this season. So I'm very curious to see where they go with that. But yeah, I like the introduction of the character. Can't wait to see what happens next. And finally, final takeaway of this episode, I want to talk about Raquel and Kanan in this episode. Now, I think it was a very smart plan that Raquel had to basically put all of this stuff that happened on Crown Camacho, and the fact that she told Lulu to do the same thing, and Howard as well. So I want to see if that story sticks, because they also did say he was behind the drug operations at both the Baseley and Jamaica houses projects. So that is what I want to see, if that story sticks, because obviously the cops are buying it for now, but I think we need to see what happens as the season goes on, because they're going to be, I think, after what happened in this episode with Howard killing Burke, eventually they are going to be suspicious of Howard. I don't think it's going to happen right away, but there's going to be some stuff that I think he's going to do this season that may put himself at risk. So let's see where they're going with that. To go to what Gary mentioned earlier, I do like the savagery, you know, how savage Kanan was in this episode. How, you know, he didn't really care. He cuts off his mom, you know, all this other stuff. And you understand it. Again, she lied to him about who his father was for all this time and tried to have him kill Howard. So I fully understand where Kanan is coming from. Okay, so I understand that. But I did find it interesting how, you know, so of course he didn't go back with her to the house. He decides to go back where Famous is at, and of course now they're about to get evicted. So I did find it funny how they approach Famous's weed supplier, trying to offer him business, and obviously he turned that down. So I'm curious to see what Kanan is going to do next, because obviously they're about to get kicked out of Famous's place. So they have to find a way to make money. We know that Kanan is about this street life. He's going to probably be out there hustling or try to set up his operations. So just like you made the comment, Gary, where we're going to finally get a chance to, I guess, dive into what happens with Jukebox and her career aspirations. I think this is the season now where Kanan takes the gloves off and you finally get to see him become more of a businessman, see how he evolves his business and all this other stuff in the street game, and basically starts to gain traction. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of that. But the one thing I do want to say, yes, to go to, again, the final part of this takeaway. You both already mentioned the death of Shannon Burke, okay? Because we did find out that when they had their conversation, Kanan and Raquel were very adamant with Howard, saying, you need to deal with the situation with Burke. This is your person. You need to deal with the situation. And of course, this entire episode, you see Shannon gets suspended. Her girlfriend breaks up with her. So from the standpoint, the character has a lot of motivation to give up on everything. But again, as Dana said, the shooting was sloppy, but I like how fast it was, how quick it was, while she's talking with Howard. And Howard just decides, oh, she's got some of this stuff. She's got this story figured out pretty good. Then he decides to just shoot her. I thought that was fantastic. And I'm very curious to see where they go with this, because again, Howard did take the tape recorder. He did try to clean up the scene of the crime. But again, this isn't something that's just going to go away. So I'm curious to see where they go. But the last thing I will say, I'm going to end this takeaway the same way I started the first one. The music. Again, the music. That epic song by Isaac Hayes, Walk On By. If you've ever seen Dead Presidents, you know about that song. That was the perfect song to end off this episode. So, yeah, fantastic. Overall, like I said, excellent season premiere. This is the way that you open a season to get people invested and interested to see what happens next. And I can't wait to see what happens next week.
Definitely. Yeah, great takeaways. And one thing about this show as well is they have a lot of like classic music in there, so that's great too, because the time frame is the 90s. So, they could play classics from the 90s, from the 80s, 70s, it's like, so that's what's great about this show. But yeah, great takeaways from both of you. So now let's get into questions and discussions so that we can have more of a dialogue about some of these things. So there's a lot I want to get to, but let's start here. Let's start with Raquel, because in this episode, her whole thing is like, after she gives the Crown Camacho story and pins everything on him, she then tells everyone she's out the game. She's moving on. She's done with the business, the life, and everything. And even Unique, when he shows up, he's like, I'm gonna miss you, because they used to be beefing, and now they're kind of cool, and he saved her. But she tells the family as well, and you can see like it's affecting them in different ways. Like, I think Lulu's a bit skeptical. You don't believe her. Kanan definitely doesn't believe her. And, Marvin's kind of stressed, like he needs his breathing exercises again. He's just all over the place. But he's trying to be there for Jukebox too. But so the question I have is, has Raquel really left the game? Or do you think, like, do you see her getting back in the game for sure? And, if she does, like, what is going to be the catalyst for that? Like, is there going to be a reason that she gets back in the game? Because she seems pretty well off. Like, it seems like she's got her money and everything. But what do you think about that? So I'm gonna go to Dana first because she's shaking her head. So, Dana, what do you think?
I was being extra with my movements so you could pick me first. No. And not even the fact that, we know through the trailer and everything, but as Kanan said, she is the game. And I like to compare this to wrestling, where, for example, we have Ric Flair, right? How many times have Ric Flair retired? And then he goes off in that retired life, but he's been in the game for so long, he doesn't know what else to do. So he keeps coming back and keeps coming back. And even when we see like he's 80 years old, 70 something, I want to wrestle. It's not because, he it's monetary is good for him, or his body's like screaming, let's get back in the ring. It's because it's all he knows what to do. Those fans and those people cheering for him, that's the sound that he needs to fuel him. That danger that Raquel goes through, even with when we had the finale, where she almost died, and then we got the Southside ending. That adrenaline, I feel, in a way, kind of amps her up. It gives her that sense of like, ooh, I'm awake, I'm alive. So certain people, that's why you stay in the game. Nobody takes a job where it's like, well, you get a bunch of money, but you also can die or end up in jail. There's something else there. You may start off with, I need the money, but there's something else there that keeps you there. We've seen multiple drug dealers that I've, had the money, whatever, enough for generations, but then they keep going back for more and more and more. It's that thrill. So I don't think Raquel will ever stick away from the game. I think that we will see maybe a break. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with a break, but there's going to be a situation where she has to get back in there. Also, on top of that, she has a son who is trying to do things on his own, and good for him and that independence, but he's not smart yet. He's not fully there. He's not the Kanan that we know today. Also, really side note, for the actor who is playing Kanan, Mackay, not Mackay. Is it Mackay? I believe it's Mackay. Mackay Curtis, his inflections and his acting, it's like, oh my God, this is 50 Cent. This is Queens. This is New York. This is the night. Like, good job for him, because it's weird. It's not. It's more than like an impersonation. I feel he fully embodies the character. He is like the character actor. So, and he's so young to pull this off. Well, I'm like, if you just close your eyes, yeah, that's 50. So, side note to him, yay. But for the character, he's still dumb. And Famous is even dumber. So I do feel that there might be a situation where Raquel is going to have to come and save the day. And also, that investigation is still investigating. And then you have Howard and other people. You have the two brothers. I do feel that something is going to happen and she's going to have to ease on back in. And then you have on top of that, just because of the thrill, she's been doing this for so long. Remember, she said in the very, like, I believe in the first season, she started this through her boyfriend. So she's learned the game through that. It wasn't like, oh, I went to school and I'm doing this and I just learned because I need extra money for books. This was something that she knows. So I don't think that she is going to step away from the game at all. And even just from a writing standpoint, she's such an impactful, strong character that I don't want her to start doing like, let's be a babysitter or let's open a salon and cut hair. I just love what she brings in from that dangerous side. So I don't want her to retire. But no, she's not retiring right now. But a break. A break is good because she was almost murdered in the previous season.
Oh yeah, true. Absolutely. Like Raquel is like you said, where Kanan told her, you are the game. Like, she is the game. So and she really does like embody that. Like she's the best kind of kingpin that we've had in a long time. Like she's cold, calculating, ruthless. She doesn't play, so I don't think like she's in so deep. I don't think she can shake that off, and she can't even do anything normal. I don't think, because her heart, like her blood, her heart, everything is that the street, the street life.
And remember during the finale of season 1, when she's on the rooftop just looking over at the chaos and the mess, and she kind of has to smile and she's like really proud of herself. You're going to tell me she's going to give that up to just, I don't know, be a mom? And I'm not saying but without the drug part, no, come on. She's so proud of herself. She needs that.
Oh yeah, definitely. So let's see what Rich thinks about that.
I agree pretty much with everything that Dana said. No way she is retiring. And I like how this episode starts immediately after what happened last season with Marvin recovering. I mean, the thing is, I still expect that they're going to want to retaliate again against the people that came after them. That will obviously, I think, come at a later point because now they have to regroup and figure out what they're going to do. The other thing is that Tony Danza's character, you saw him in this episode very briefly talking to Sal. And the thing is that I'm pretty sure that character has unfinished business with Raquel as well. So I don't think it's over. I know she can have the intent that she wants to retire and get out the game, but in this game, there isn't really too many people that get out alive. So I want to see where they're going with this. Obviously, she's not done. But yeah, I think Kanan and Lulu are right to doubt that she's telling the truth when she said that she's out. And yeah, I look forward to seeing where they go from here. Go ahead, Dana.
Yeah, go Dana.
And as I muted. Also, this answers our question that we had when we did our trailer breakdown. Remember when Tony Danza was like, "I need you," and we didn't know like for what. So this answers. We don't have the answer, but maybe he's the one who pulls her back in. With some kind of offer. Maybe he gives her like access and more ability to retaliate against what happened in the previous season. And I don't think that his people, Tony Danza's people, is gonna survive because they're freaking idiots as well. So they're not gonna last. Hence the I need you. Plus they're idiots, so I need you even more. So I think that's also going to be a catalyst for her to come back in. And then also, on just a side note, Tony Danza is so delicious in this role that he has. I would have never thought, let's have Tony Danza be the mobster guy. And he's just so good at it. I love it. So yeah, I think he's going to be that part because we do see that, and we do see something with a storefront. Remember at the end of the trailer. So yay. That's going to be like, oh, I retired spot. But we all know it's not. Remember, think of Tasha with that babysitting job. Whoop.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, I love Stefano, I think is his name, the Tony Danza character. I love that he's selling fishes and stuff. And he tells Saul, oh, you better buy some fishes, at least. Because he's upset with him for not getting the job done, and then he sends it. I think it's right what you're saying, Dana, about he might make an offer to Raquel because he sends Sal back to Jersey or whatever, and he seems like he just wants him to go away at this point, like just get out of my face. And he might go to Raquel now because she's the one who survived. Like if she can survive Saul, maybe he should be working with her.
Well, they're also idiots. But also, was I the only one who caught like the double meaning of the fishes? Because I immediately thought it would go, sleep with the fishes.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Mobster stereotype talk. So yay.
Yeah, I hope we get a lot of fish puns or something throughout this season. But yeah, Rich, was you going to say something else?
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I got a lot of questions. So let me get to another one. So okay, so we kind of didn't really talk about Lulu a lot in our takeaways. So is Lulu done with Raquel for good? Because the thing is, if you watch season 1, and I have been watching season 1 again, and there's a scene in that one where Marvin and Lulu are fighting each other. And at this point in time, you know, Marvin's basically telling Lulu, "Oh, you're always on Raquel's titty," you know, implying that he's, you know, he kisses up to their sister, you know, to the older sister, like he's under her wing, he follows her lead, and and all that. So yeah, like Dana's laughing. Did you remember that?
It's not that scene. It's the fact you're so British. You said tea.
It's my accent.
He was
I
all
can't
up on
help
a titty. I love it.
it.
He's on a titty. Oh God.
It's the accent, isn't it? Man's British, bruv. But yeah, so that's what happens. Yeah, so like he implies that Lulu is so under Raquel's wing, and you know, and now we're kind of seeing the reverse of that because Marvin is the one that's kind of sticking by Raquel, and Lulu, he's kind of just done with everything because he's lost his business, he's lost Zisa, you know, his whole thing got shut up, and he's just tired of Raquel. And there's even the scene where he tells Kanan, you know, that it was Raquel who had D Wiz killed. But you know, Kanan's like, I already knew anyway. But you know, then he's like, she had me do it, and you could see that really bothers him. You know, that really touches him that he had to be the one to do that. You know, to kill that kid. So, do you think that he's really done for good with Raquel? And what else do you see for this character in the season? So, I'm going to go to you first, Rich. What do you think?
I believe this is the season where we're going to see Lulu start to stand up for himself a lot more. I think the most important thing about that conversation, well, the most important detail about this episode regarding Lulu, Marvin does find out in this episode that Howard is Kanan's father. And you notice that Raquel tells him, don't tell this to Lulu because he already hates her, so on and so forth. So I will be very curious to see what happens when Lulu actually finds out this information. Would he hold this against Raquel? Because for the last 2 seasons, Raquel has always had the upper hand. Remember what she told Lulu at the end of last season? I own you, right? So I want to see where they're going with that. And I think that this is the season. Shout out to Malcolm Mays, excellent actor. This is his season where I think this character is going to do some things to set himself apart. Now, as for the question you asked, Gary, about will he continue to trust Raquel and work with her, I don't necessarily think he's going. Well, obviously he doesn't trust her. He is aligned with Kanan now in terms of how they think about Raquel. But I want to see how he plays this because obviously there are going to be certain situations that I think happen this season where the family is going to have to work together. But at some point, he is going to get some type of measure of revenge against her once he has the opportunity to do so. What kind of revenge that is, we'll have to wait and see. But stay tuned for that. I do think, though, this is the season where he's going to take control and make sure he's not always the one getting outsmarted by her. So let's see what happens from here.
Yeah, interesting. Lulu taking control. That could be good. And yeah, I remember there was also there was also something in the past where Unique had approached Lulu to because he wanted him to kind of flip on Raquel and work with him or something like that. Now Unique is kind of in bed with Raquel literally, so like you know they have that going on, but who knows what Ronnie is going to be up to and what type of time he's going to be on, you know. So there's room for some alliances to be made, possibly, you know. But Dana, what do you think? You got any thoughts on that?
But Richard, you did the singer thing.
Oh, you gonna say something, Rich?
Oh no, I was just going to say, yeah, Gary, you hit it right on the head when you mentioned Roddy. That's the one that could approach Lulu. So we need to see if that's what's actually going to happen.
Okay, so y'all saw my answer because I was going to say this. Once Raquel said, I own you, that to me was an extremely powerful declaration. And to me, that means revenge. And the thing about Lulu is he don't speak. He's kind of like Rodney in a way, where you think he's doing one thing, but I really do feel that he could be doing something else while he's doing that one thing. And in terms of Rodney, I don't know what his motives are. I don't know that relationship. I don't know the deepness of that relationship between him and his brother. We do know that tension. We do know that he was introduced as he is the kid that the bully runs away from, essentially. So, with that kind of dynamic and with Lulu's mindset, could be one of two things. I want revenge no matter what. Therefore, I'm going to team with Ronnie, who doesn't have any connection to Raquel, who does not care about who Raquel is and have that kind of relationship. He wasn't there going Southside. He looks like the type of person who would probably end up killing Unique. I mean, the way how Unique came into that door, it was chilly in the air. So I do feel that could be a possibility of them teaming up. But for me, I really want him to just get completely out of the game. I spoke to Malcolm Mays a while ago during, I think, season 2. And one of the things that I asked him, now obviously we don't know what's going to actually pen to paper, what's going to happen was, what is Lulu's ultimate goal? And it was very simple. Music, family, settle down, be basic and normal. It wasn't get the money, get the drugs, own this, get my man up, get the crew up. It wasn't that at all. So I wonder if he's going to strive more for that. But in order for him to achieve that true sense of freedom, because I asked him, what is that true sense of freedom? It may have to be a life without Raquel. Now, I don't know if that means through death. I don't know if it's his death or her death, but it's very interesting that the only people that we go in the future that we know fully about that's mentioned is Raquel and Jukebox. We don't have anything about the uncles. So maybe one uncle died. Maybe this adds to the harshness that is Kanan. Maybe he steps away, and in order for him to step away, he has to cut ties completely with everyone. So that could be another option as well. But I truly do feel that there is a blood war between those two siblings. That not right now, but maybe in the future of season 4, we could get that. So, and again, we know that Rick, when he said, I went to go, remember in the official Power, he said, I went to go visit my mom. Is that gravesite or is that retirement home? We still do not know. And for me, just poetic wise, what better way to take you out than your own family? And then when you say I own you, to me that's making me look a little sideways and suspicious. So that's what I think. In order for him to achieve that happiness, he is going to have to flee. But here's the thing. I wonder if you say to me, I own you, no matter how far I flee, you will come and find me. Is that how I have to get rid of you? So it's an open-ended answer, but yay war.
Oh yeah, there absolutely has to be some more conflict in the family. But go ahead, Rich.
Oh no, I was going to say excellent takeaway. I just was going to make a comment and ask you this question. I don't know if this is a question that you were going to ask us, but we saw that they obviously Lulu is still angry about what happened with Scrappy. Do you think they are ever going to find out who is the actual person that was working with the police? We already know as viewers it was Scrappy's mom, all right? But I'm asking you the question, do you think they're ever going to find that out? And do you think they're ever going to retaliate? Because I'll be very curious to know what people think about that.
That's a good question. I think see that this show, what this show does a great job of doing is referencing things that have happened in the previous seasons. Like, they continue to reference stuff that happened in season 1 and 2. So I feel like anything that happened in those seasons is going to be relevant in this season. So I absolutely think that it's possible they might, find out that it was Scrappy's mother because you know they made a big deal of like mentioning Scrappy in this episode. So that makes me think like, you know, they want the viewers to remember what has happened, and that, you know, Raquel killed Scrappy and he wasn't the snitch. It's even in the at the top of the show. There's like the little recap thing, so they put that in there too. You know, where she tells Lulu that, you know, she made a mistake with Scrappy and stuff. So I do think that that story will be revisited for sure. Um, but Dana, go ahead. What do you think?
Well, I'm trying to remember. The mom was very adamant that they find out what happened to Scrappy, from my understanding. I'm not confusing shows. Um, I don't think that she is someone who's going to just let it go, just because it's the next season. I do think that she's going to be completely on them. Um, but here's I don't know how this will end up playing out. I don't really think that they're going to get retaliation. They may do another framing situation where they frame someone else for it. I'm really interested in the fact that Howard, technically, he's on the inside. So he would have any kind of immediate knowledge of if the mom comes back in and she wants to reopen cases and she's giving them a hard time. So that's one thing that Raquel does have going for him. Raquel and Lulu and all of them. Um, but I don't know whether or not her voice alone is going to make them start looking at things and having some kind of revenge on for Scrappy. But I do feel that it's important, but I just don't know how at this moment. We have the mom, but Howard is still on the inside and can easily try to like dissuade and dismiss her. So I don't know how she combats that. That's the only issue, unless somehow she goes to Lulu, which I don't really think she knows of Lulu like that. So,
Yeah, it's a good point because you know, she's not like in the fold, like she's not around them all the time to know all of the juicy details and stuff. It's like she's kind of just looking from afar. So it's kind of limited to what she can actually know. But you know, they could actually find out that it was her that, you know, did the telling, and then maybe something happens with that. But you know, who knows? But that was a great question, Rich, to ask. You know, maybe some of the commenters will chime in on that too. Um, so I have to get to the next question now because you know, I know you two both kind of mentioned it already, but I want to know, you know, what's your impression of Ronnie as a character, and what do you see for him this season? And you know, I didn't really mention him in my takeaways, but you know, I just love that he's like so intense. Like he comes across as like a sociopath, or you know, like he has social anxiety and he's just like overly intense about like everything, like every conversation, like even just the way he's sitting there eating cereal and watching the TV. Like he's like very monotone and serious with you know, all of the conversation and the answers to Unique and stuff. And then like when they're in the car and you know, he's just observing what's going on in the streets, like people selling drugs and stuff, and like, you know, just the way he talks about Raquel, like, oh, you're working with Raquel in Jersey, like you're like, instead of doing your own thing, like, you know, it's like you can see that he's a very serious guy and like he's all about his principles and old school values, and like he's not with anything that's going on right now. Like he's not with Unique partnering up with Raquel. You know, Unique's trying to tell him like the game has changed, it's not the same, everything's hot, you know, for us and stuff. But like he doesn't want to hear none of that, you know. So now he just got out of prison, so I'm sure there's like a probation period or something like that. But I do feel like, you know, once this character really gets comfortable and he's kind of off that whole prison leash, I feel like he's gonna create some chaos in this show. Like, you know, especially once he gets around some of the other characters. Like, I recall there was a scene of him and Kanan in the trailer. So that was interesting. I want to see what happens with that, because this guy is like, he's super serious. Like, you can just tell from his demeanor. So I'm excited about this character. I love that he's introduced. But Dana, what do you think about Ronnie?
Remember how I was saying before that Kanan is young but dumb and he wants to branch out on his own, and that's really great and we support that. But remember when we was watching the trailer and he was having a conversation, they was conversating and we didn't know what they was really conversating about? Here's what I think. Him and Famous together are a hot mess. And that's cool. That's great. He needs that guiding force. He's extremely mad at his dad. He's extremely mad at his mom. Jukebox has her own problems and she's a mess. And plus, she's really not in the game like that, right? Rodney. Rodney, I think, is that silent opportunist, as we all saw. He's, like I said, the Nation of Islam with his little books, but he's always looking. So I feel like this. He is going to approach Kanan. He knows that Kanan is Raquel's son, which he knows deals with Unique. Maybe there's going to be an argument or something or some side dealings that I know is going to happen between him and Kanan. Maybe a way to utilize him that is going to be an extra angriness when it comes to Raquel when she finds out, which is going to be extra angry towards Unique, which may cause a rift between Raquel and Unique. Raquel has to come back into the game to get her son. Then we're going to have a battle of, oh, you think I'm better than you? Or, who's better than whom type of thing. So I really do believe that this could be a showdown between Raquel and Rodney. Because one thing about Raquel, she don't play about her children. And Jukebox is also her child too. So she don't play about her children. So that's what I really love about this. I think that because of Rodney's demeanor at first, like again, he can be very he's unarmed. He just sits there, he's quiet, he has a social anxiety. So in a way you want to hey, how you doing? Are you all right? You want to check on him. So I do see that Kanan could possibly approach him and feel that kind of welcoming thing. Plus he's so angry at his mom. He's blinded by whatever we can see, he can't see because he's just wants to get back at his mom. He wants to be independent by any means necessary. And then again, Famous is just dumb. So that's how I think that scene that we saw in the trailer could end up playing out. So that'll end up causing an interesting dynamic between him and Unique, and then Raquel and Unique, and then Raquel and Rodney. So everybody is just, because they can see that he's probably going to play their son against them. And I wonder, because right now they're still staying in the same home, does this mean that Kanan now stays over? Because he's living with Famous, but they're getting it kicked out. Who's going to give him shelter? It's not going to be the next door neighbor that he slept with. So I don't know. But this could be a great way of introducing him. And you know how you start out as being really nice and you give him things. Hey, do you need this? Maybe it's Ronnie who ends up setting him up. And that's how he gains that trust and that loyalty. And, he's doing more for me, Mom, than you ever did. You know how kids are, and they're into their feelings and their emotions. So I do see that that's how he comes into play. And but remember, we have two other characters that we saw in the trailer that, remember I said, was going to be like the big mentor and the little mentor. The wife is the mentor and mentor. So I wonder how that also comes into play with Rodney. So it's a lot of things that they set up in just this one little episode. So I'm for it.
Oh yeah, the police are coming to get Ronnie right now, it sounds like. But no, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with what you said, like, because Kanan, he's at that point where he's rejecting his mother and his father. And like, he's still very young, so he still needs like some kind of like guidance and someone to look up to kind of thing. So he's at a vulnerable time where like he could totally fall victim to looking up to the wrong person. And it kind of reminds me of Tariq a little bit, because Kanan was that for Tariq. he was like the wrong influence for Tariq. So Kanan could find himself in a situation like that, and maybe that's where he learns it from, because hurt people. Like maybe Kanan, like some of the things that psychologically damaged him is what he did to Tariq and other people in Power, in the original Power. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. But Richard, what's your thoughts on Ronnie?
So Ronnie strikes me as a character that does not like change. He already has a set way of thinking, and he has a system that he works by. This is why he was very angry when he was talking with Unique. He said, we should have people out here on the corners, but I don't know what you're doing with Raquel, but she's the one that got you in control here. So I think that he is obviously going to create a lot of issues with Unique going forward in the season. And like I had mentioned earlier, it just feels like when the character is there, because Unique is a different character. When this character was not around, Unique is a totally different character the last 2 seasons. You saw it from the minute that he walked into his house. You just felt things were different. And then he sees his brother. He doesn't tell his brother what's actually happening out here in these streets. At least that we haven't seen that conversation happen yet. It could very well happen. But he just tells him things are different. He doesn't go into any details. And he's also sort of avoiding talking about a lot of stuff with him. And this also goes to his woman as well, because you saw in the episode, his woman is like, well, how long is he going to be here? He's trying to assure her, there's not going to be any issues. He's not going to mess up what we have going on here, so on and so forth. But obviously, these 2 brothers are going to have a lot of tension, I feel, going into this season. And because, again, he doesn't like the fact that he's been working with Raquel. And I think Dana made a very excellent point about the fact that Kanan, knowing that is Raquel's son, I definitely want to see how Ronnie, what type of stuff happens between him and Kanan. Because I'm assuming, because Ronnie wants to be out here on these streets, and he see that now Kanan is out here on these streets, he's going to probably not like that, because he's the one that wants to be out there running the streets. So I want to see where they're going with this. But obviously, it's a very interesting character. Again, there's a lot of mystery behind the character, because we only saw him. He only had 2 scenes in this episode. All right. But yet he is the one that everybody's going to be talking about when they see this show. So I definitely am looking forward to seeing where they're going with the character. But I think it was an excellent introduction. And all I can think of is going to be a lot of drama and chaos between the brothers from here on out. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, definitely. A bit of a brotherly tension is always good to see. It's always entertaining. And I think who said it? It might have been Dana or it might have been you, Rich. I can't remember, but like when we were doing Force, one of you said, siblings are a big part of like these spin-offs now, like family and siblings and sibling rivalry and stuff. It's like a common theme throughout. And we've got Marvin and Lulu in this, and we've also now got Unique and Ronnie. So I want to see what those family dynamics are going to be for sure between Ronnie and Unique. Go ahead, Rich.
And let me just add one other point. I also like the fact that last season we had Unique's very good friend Warrell get killed. So this makes it even more of an interesting situation, because Unique can't really talk about this stuff to anybody. He can't talk about this stuff to his friend. He has to deal with this stuff with his brother. And that's why I said the dynamic of juggling that relationship. And now you also have this stuff happening with Raquel. I want to see where they're going with this. But Unique has a lot of things he has to on his plate this season. So very interested to see where the storyline goes from here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Great thoughts. So yeah, let's get to the next one. So Kanan is the main character, of course, of this series, Raising Kanan. I mean, you could argue Raquel is, because it's called Raising Kanan, and who is the person who raises Kanan? It's the mother. So you could argue she's the main character, but Kanan is like the focal point because it's telling his story, that led to Power. So like, and just from this episode, it really feels like we're seeing a more dominant Kanan now. He's making more decisions for himself. He's being very active in the things that he's doing. So I'm liking that, because and this is not a critique, but in season 1 and 2, it was very much Raquel focused. Like she was definitely like the main driving character in the first 2 seasons, and that's not a critique. That's just the nature of this show. Like it is Raquel and Kanan almost like they're both the main character. I feel like, but we're seeing a more dominant Kanan in this one so far, season 3. So, I want to ask you guys, and this is a very open-ended question, so you can go wild with it, but what do you see happening to Kanan this season? Like, what is his journey going to be, and how much of his growth do you feel like we're gonna experience in this season? So you can answer it any way you want. It's very open-ended, but I'll go to you first. Rich, you got any thoughts on that?
This is a great question to ask, Gary. I feel this is the season where Kanan starts to build his empire, slowly but surely. And I think it was very fitting that this episode starts with him going back to Famous's place and they have an eviction notice. So I imagine by the end of the season, they will have moved out somewhere else. Kanan will start to build up a team that he can work with that's working for him, so on and so forth. But he's definitely going to have some roadblocks along the way. Obviously, as we mentioned when we did the recap for the trailer, the 2 mentors he has, if they decide to loan him money and he is late to pay them back, that can become a problem. And maybe Raquel has to step in and try to control that situation or try to help to some extent. And she may do that without Kanan even knowing, and that may cause even more issues between them two. I mean, there's a lot of things to consider. But I think pretty much this season, this is the season where, like you say, Gary, because Kanan had some great ideas. Last season, he gave Marvin ideas on how to do business, and that actually worked to Marvin's benefit. So it's like he still has had he's still been active. He's made some mistakes in the past, but he's also had some good ideas. So this is the season where I think you'll finally start to see, as he's out on his own, doing his own thing, he's going to grow a lot more into the Kanan that we know on the original Power show. So I look forward to seeing that. And as Dana already mentioned, Mekhi Curtis, he is an outstanding actor. The mannerisms of Kanan / 50 Cent, he has that down to a T. So I look forward to seeing him grow a lot more darker as the season goes on. But yeah, I think this is definitely how his story goes this season. He definitely grows as a character. Obviously, we also have the whole issue of Famous killing that guy last season. And that is still going to be an issue that is going to come to a head at some point. So I would like to see how they address that, because again, another character that is not nowhere to be known in the original Power show is Famous. So something is going to happen to Famous also. So let's see where they're going. But I look forward to seeing it. But yeah, I think that's what they're going to do with Kanan this season.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, totally. And yeah, I want to, because I know Dana mentioned it earlier, but Mekhi Curtis, he is an amazing actor, like for his age, like definitely, like he really does embody that Kanan 50 Cent cadence and stuff. So yeah, big shouts to him. He's doing a great job. But Dana, what do you think of Kanan's journey in this season?
So here's the thing for this season. I do want him to have some wins. I don't want to be lost, you're depressed, and you end up like Burke. I want him to have wins, and I want it to be able to balance out where he does get a learning lesson by the end. What that lesson is, I don't know everything, and it allows him to smarten up, but I do want to see him grow. He started out as someone who was cutting the drugs wrong and killed some people. So I do want him to just learn from that and learn how to be more attentive as well, and then also smarter. So that should be a good dynamic and a good balance that we have. So I want him to just grow overall. The relationship with his mother right now, I don't want it to be like, here's some big tragic thing that happens and he comes running back and is like, Mom, I love you. I do like the fact that he is on his own. He is acting out of anger right now. Um, and let him act out of anger, because sometimes that, again, you learn who you are when you're acting out that way. And we have these other characters, so let me see how they influence your life as well, because I don't think it's one person that has complete influence over the person that you are today. I think it's several people, and that could be anyone from, yeah, you got the mom, but it could be Rodney, it could be Famous, it could be some other characters that we don't know yet. So let me see that, and so therefore I get the bigger picture of who Kanan is in the future. So just grow.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I feel like that's going to be the most entertaining part of this, just seeing how he does grow this season, because it's the journey. It's all in the journey. We know how the story ends, but it's all about how he got there. That's the entertaining part. Um, but like, what I'll say about Kanan's journey is, like, so sometimes when, like, the children of notorious kingpins get into trouble, they sometimes get a pass based on who their parents are, um, and we've seen it with Kanan, actually, where I think in season 2 he got himself into trouble quite a lot, and Raquel and the family had to kind of bail him out and stuff and help him out. So what I would love to see this season is, like, because he's being so bold and savage to his mother, and he's clear that he wants to go out on his own, and be like, just sever all ties with his mother or whatever. I want to see that put to the test. I want to see, like, him get into some serious trouble, and there's no one to bail him out. Like, he can't go to Raquel because he's cut that tie. Um, so I want him to be really challenged and pressured. Like, I want to see him under a lot of pressure, because he has to feel the weight of his decision to leave, his mother's home and stuff, and his mother's protection, because that is a he had two uncles, who were kind of respected in the area, and then Raquel, the kingpin. A lot of people wasn't going to touch Kanan just off of the strength of who they were. But now, if he's on his own and he's making these moves and possibly, beefing with other drug crews, they ain't like. I feel like, Raquel and Uncle Marvin should respectfully be like, okay, let Kanan handle that then, because he doesn't want to be a part of the organization. He doesn't want to be a part of Raquel. He doesn't want the house that Raquel bought. So I want to see him put through, those challenges and kind of earn his name and his respect and stuff. So that's what I want to see. And I think, you both kind of alluded to the fact that he's probably going to build a crew, build a team, build an organization and stuff. I would love to see all of that. And for me, I also would love if we finally get to answer the question, of who is Breeze. If he turns up, if that character turns up at some point, I would love that, you know, maybe at the end of the season or something. So that would be cool. But but yeah, any more thoughts on Kanan's journey before we get to the last one? Nope. Go ahead, Dana.
I want to know, again, that jukebox situation. I got to know what happens with the jukebox. Is she still on her own journey? Will they cross again? What's going on? I don't know. But
Wait,
I like their dynamic.
you mean Kanan and Jukebox? You mean with
Yeah,
them? Okay.
yeah. Because again, we still have that big scene. So I kind of like their dynamic. It's different. It's realistic. So yeah.
Yeah, you know what I liked during the scene at the table at the new house where uh Kanan was like making it clear he didn't believe anything Raquel was saying about leaving the game and all that stuff, and then Kanan got up and walked away, and Raquel kind of looked at Jukebox and called her name, like she wanted her to go talk to him or something. And she goes to talk to him. She says, maybe you should give your mother another chance, and see what's going on. And Kanan refuses. And then Jukebox goes back in the house, and Patina Miller, she's a great actor. She gives Jukebox that look, and it's like she sees Kanan didn't come back in with her, and she's like, damn, like that was just perfect. Like, just because what that shows is like Jukebox is the one who could always get through to Kanan. So if she can't get through to him and make him come back in the house, it's like he's truly gone. Like he's really gone. Like, so I love that because that just shows the depth of Jukebox and Kanan's relationship. Go ahead, Dana.
Do you feel that it's fair to give her that responsibility? Because they're kind of throwing her a lot in the middle of things. I just wondered.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair because she has her own trials and tribulations. She's dealing with a lot of death, like the death of her girlfriend and the death of her mother now. So she shouldn't
and a
have
friend
to be,
soon.
yeah, a friend. So she shouldn't have to, be Kanan's caretaker or therapist or whatever. So yeah, I don't think so. But Rich, what do you think?
I'm sorry. Repeat the question about Jukebox. What was the question?
Yeah, Dana was asking like, should Jukebox have to, be responsible for like trying to talk to Kanan and pull him back in and get him to talk to his mother again? Should that responsibility? Yeah.
Well, no, she should not be responsible for that. This is Raquel. We know from the previous season, she is a master manipulator. So she was basically telling Jukebox, "Well, I know you're close to him as well. You do this for me." Because you saw the bond building between those two characters, Jukebox and Raquel last season. So that's what this is about. But honestly, it's not her responsibility to do that. And then I like how when she does approach Kanan and he mentions, yeah, you got to remember that you lost your mom because she got caught up in all this stuff happening with my mom. So I like that she point that. And then that was a minute where she took a pause and said, you know what? Yeah, Kanan is right. But I don't think it's her responsibility to do that, to act as that mending fence between the two of them. And one thing I am curious to see is when she finds out that Burke got killed or whatever, I want to know how she is going to look at that situation because, as Dana mentioned, that was her friend. But if she ever finds out that Howard is the one that did that, oh boy, this is why I say I'm looking forward to seeing where they're going with that story because I don't think that Howard, obviously he did an okay job cleaning up the scene of the crime afterwards, but I really do feel as though it could come down to when she finds out that information, hey, I don't know, maybe what if she is the one that takes out Howard? I mean, hey, we have to see what happens, but it's a lot of ways they can go with that. That's why I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just would have talked to my UK people who have seen Top Boy, but that cleanup job that Howard did was way better than the one Duchesne did. If you've seen Top Boy, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But but yeah, like absolutely, Rich. Like I agree. But yeah. So like, I just have one more question since you brought up Howard. Do you think, the last question was basically, do you think he's going to get caught or maybe even killed this season? Like, is his time running out? Like, now we know he had an illness, we know he was sick and everything. It might be in remission at the moment, I think, his leukemia. But but he did have that, and it could come back at any time. But he's really broke bad and killed his ex-partner. Like that is a big deal. And the police chief seems to trust him at the moment, but Burke did have other people in her corner. She had the girlfriend and she had her father. And if there is some digging done, I feel like it could easily be discovered that, Howard has something to do with this. So what do you think that, this could be like his final season even? Do you think that his time's running out? Do you think he could get caught, for what he's done? Um, and is he going to continue to do dirt, do you think? Like, because he seems adamant on protecting Kanan and Raquel somewhat. So I'll go to you first, Dana. You got any thoughts on that?
See, here's the thing. He escaped death once, but you can argue final destination, it comes back again. So it'll come back around again. There is a chance of remission. There is a chance of him just getting popped off in the street. He's starting to do a lot of dirty stuff. So that could easily come back to him as well. I don't feel that he's going to last very long, whether it's this season or next season that he's taken out. I don't feel that that's the case. He was already shot before. You know how many times this man escaped death? That it's just, death is like, come on now? It's getting upset. Their final destination in this man. And what happens in the end? Death always wins. So he's definitely going to be taken out, whether or not it's by his son again, or if it's, some type of cancer that comes back. I don't see him staying here very long. I wonder if, say, for example, his cancer does come back, he can use, or the tumors or something start growing, he can use that as like an escape thing. Like, well, I wasn't in my right mind. Because literally, look, the cancer. So he's able to technically escape, any type of legal jail thing that he may face. My biggest thing is I wonder, will Kanan ever accept him as his father? That's the bigger thing. And if so, will he do it before he dies? So that's an even bigger thing. We don't hear of Howard in the future. So I'm wondering if that's something that, how does that play out? So I think the bigger question is, will he finally accept him? Because right now he's in that angry, I always knew, but you don't talk to me mode.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because I don't think we at any point in the original Power we don't learn that Kanan's father was a cop, So yeah, like that's a good point. Like, he must completely disown him, or Howard ends up dead and just forgotten about or something, like, just because he's never mentioned at all. So yeah, was you gonna say something else, Dana?
Also, the fact that he is a cop and the streets like to talk and they conversate and there's rumors flying and they don't know when to shut up. So I wonder if that, when people find out and there's no longer that spell of protection around him, who's going to protect him now and who's going to retaliate? I do think it's Howard, but will that anger kind of Kanan even more? So it's a lot of things that is happening.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot. Rich, what would you think about that? What do you think about Howard?
Well, this is very interesting dynamic. One thing we know about these power shows, they really like to emphasize the relationships between the sons and the fathers, and the sons inevitably taking out the fathers. This is why I was thinking to myself, when Howard had the conversation with Kane in this episode, and he said, the blocks is hot right now. You need to be careful. Everyone needs to have the same story. Well, Kanan obviously is now focused on himself, focused on growing his drug empire. And that is a direct conflict with what Howard is doing to say, hey, you need to stay off the streets, so on and so forth. So I instantly thought to myself, if it comes down to it, where Howard is getting in the way of what Kanan is doing, then Howard has to go. But the thing is, the question is it going to come to that, or is Howard has Howard already dug his own grave by virtue of what he did at the end of this episode? Because again, we can all agree Burke is a very annoying character. As you saw her unravel all of last season, trying to take out Howard, going into all of the personal family business with Howard, Raquel, and Kanan, and so on and so forth. You wanted the character to get taken out, and that's what we got in this episode. But that does have consequences. You know, there are certain people that know her better. They know more about her outside of what happened with this case. So they are going to be looking for answers to see what happened to her. And I kind of feel like even though Howard was able to leave the scene of the crime, so on and so forth, and seemingly clean up the mess that he created, I still feel as though that's going to follow him. It's not just going to go away because they know that she was very suspicious of Howard. She kept saying he is behind a lot of this stuff that is going on. And I mean, that's why I want to see where they're going with that. But to answer the question, I agree 100% with what Dana said. Howard does not have that much time left. I would not be surprised if they end this season with him getting taken out, because you started the season off with his partner getting killed by Howard, and it'd be quite fitting to see Howard get taken out by the end, I would think, or before that. It all depends. But I do think that the whole situation of Kanan trying to grow his empire is tied to this, because obviously Howard does not want Kanan doing any of this stuff. And we haven't really seen them have an interaction yet, because as I do feel once Kanan does get things started again, you're going to see him have a conversation with Howard once again. And Howard's going to be like, what are you doing? Trying to stop him from doing this stuff. And then that may lead to something happening to him. But again, let's see which path they take. But I agree 100%. Omar Epps is an excellent actor, but I think his time is going to be up on this show by the end of this season. I think that is going to happen to move things forward and to really lead to Kanan growing further as a character and becoming a lot more ruthless and dark as the show goes on. But we'll see what happens. But go ahead, Dana.
Go, Dana.
We also seem to forget the fact that, Raquel had her son kill him initially.
Yeah.
I'm wondering more of that's going to be revenge than anything else, because now we have him being kind of slightly unhinged when it came to the finale of how he killed Burke. I wonder if Kanan will use that against him in some way, like, we can get back into a relationship if you help me take out this with Raquel. Somehow get back at Raquel. And I see him being that kind of person where he would easily do anything for his son for the possibility of him accepting him into his life. And in that way, he can be the master manipulator. Also, you have the fact that Rodney seems to be very manipulative. Could be. We don't know. I'm guessing. Also, we have the two mentors that are going to be introduced later in this season. So in a way, Howard could be used as a chess pawn, just like Raquel used him against his father.
Yeah.
So you take that anger and you use it against somebody else. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. And then we also could be an interesting way how they compare this to, remember when Kanan took out his own son without any kind of disregard. Oh, you're weak. Boom, you're dead. So I wonder how this could be, maybe not. Maybe I'm just fishing for things, but could be reflective of the relationship in the future with his own son. And also, he did at the end of the day was trying to be murdered by Raquel through his own son. And I think that's also another reason as to why he's mad. You had me try to kill the man for you, my own father. So there's multiple layers as to why he's mad. It's not just, oh, I didn't get my way, I hate you. There's multiple layers to Raquel's deceit and lies. And so I wonder if he's going to use that card and play it the same way that Raquel, maybe like mother, like son. Maybe we're seeing there's going to be more comparisons between the two than opposites.
Oh yeah, no, you're making some great points there. Because like with Howard, like him you know, that relationship with him, with Kanan and Sean, you know, if Kanan actually killed, if he ends up killing Howard, maybe that shows what made him so comfortable with killing, you know, Sean later on, you know, so that's a great point. And then also, you know, just the fact that this whole police thing kind of follows Kanan a little bit, because you know, Jukebox, we know that she becomes a police officer and he ends up killing her. And then who is Kanan killed by? He's killed by police. So it's like this is like a real curse in his life, you know, that kind of follows him now.
Or maybe that's how Howard does. Maybe everybody finds out. Dude's like, McCancer's back anyway. He comes to go to protect Kanan, you know, and that's how he gets taken out by a hail of gunshots with the cops. Because the whole thing, and that always bothered me, how 50 Cent was written off on the show. It wasn't the fact that he was written off, it was how he was written off. Like, it just seemed, maybe it was me, but it felt so out of character for him to just like jump out the car. I'm here. It's just so random. I would have to revisit that episode, but I genuinely hate how that happened.
Yeah, because his thing was he didn't want to go back, you know, he didn't want to go back to prison, and Tariq set him up. Go ahead.
Can I just make a comment? Every time you talk about that scene, I laugh at Tariq's reaction when he gets killed. It's very hilarious. Michael Rainey Jr. It's very hilarious reaction. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, because he was acting all shocked, like, and scared when he was the one that set the whole thing up. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Go ahead, Dana.
Oh Lord. No, we could just get another. And then Kanan sits there and he's like all shocked and scared, looking at Howard being murdered. And maybe he's the one who sets it up. I don't know, but it was terrible. So we could get a repeat of that.
Yeah, it does feel like they're trying to tell that. They're trying to fill in that gap and explain what happened in Power more. Like in the original Power, it feels like they're trying to really like build that knowledge of what happened through this show, kind of. So I think there is going to be a lot of connections there. So great points there. But yeah, those are all the questions I had. So let's get to final thoughts. You know, if there was anything else from this episode that caught your attention that you want to bring up or discuss, now is the time to do so. So I'm gonna go to you first, Rich. Do you have any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I'm so glad that this show is back. Enjoyed the first episode. Excellent acting, excellent cinematography. Everything about the show was on point, you know, and of course the music, as I said earlier. So I'm looking forward to seeing the remaining season. But this is a hell of a way to start the season, so I got to give them props for that.
Yeah, indeed. And how about you, Dana? You are muted.
Shout out to one of the characters that we really didn't pay much attention to, but ended up having a really big kind of important part in the opening episode, and that's the guy who was in the wheelchair. Had a carriage they followed through, and he made sure that he was okay and drove him where he needed to go in order to get stuff. Also, the strength that is within Marvin to be shot and start lifting up those boxes and still walk and everything else. Yay. Also, shout out to duct tape because it kept him together. That was a very interesting way how he pieced himself back together with the duct tape. So, yay for that. I think that it was just a really good episode. It jumped right away, so we don't have any kind of lingering answers. I think that they learned, because one of my biggest complaints was, remember when Howard had the cancer thing and he was shot? Not the first scene, but the first season finale. And then remember how magically, the cancer's in remission. I'm really happy we didn't have like the magical side ending that occurred somewhere off camera, that they decided to jump right into action right away with things happening. So yay to that. I just think overall it was really good, and I look forward to that ending because what a great cliffhanger to kind of end it all. It was expected but unexpected in terms of the time frame. So I like it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love it too. Like I love everything about this show. Like the style, the references to the 90s. How they were playing that video game. I can't remember the name of the actual game, but like yeah, like they're playing retro video games and stuff. And Rich, do you know that game by the way? Because I don't know what the game was. It looked like Final Fight or something like that, but I'm not sure if it was.
Yeah, I would have to go back and see it. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, but I just love like the whole presentation of the show is like perfect. All the references, the music, and I noticed that 50 Cent as well. He is a executive producer of the show. He had a lot of creative input and stuff, and I know he loves that Goodfellas. If you've ever seen Goodfellas, he loves that style of storytelling where like he's like the person giving the voiceover explaining what happened in his story and stuff. I noticed because I watched his movie Get Rich or Die Trying. I watched that again recently, and he does it in there too. So he really loves that kind of style. So and this show kind of really embodies it and does it way better than Get Rich or Die Trying did. So yeah, like this show is great, man. It's definitely my favorite spin-off show, and I'm happy to be covering it again. But that is going to be it for us, for this first episode. And I can't wait to see what the commenters, everyone who supports the show, I can't wait to see, what you guys are saying. But yeah, that's gonna be it from us until we recap episode 2. So until then, I hope everyone, has a great week. And, the holiday season's coming up. So stay well, everybody. Take care of yourselves and, love your family. I'll say that. But on that note, we're going to end this off. So peace out and we'll see you all next week.